Welcome everyone. Welcome to Into the NapraVerse webinar. All right, just getting everything together here. Going to check in here. And I would like to ask all of you to check in at NCNM University on our social platforms. Please check into NCNM University online. All right, gotta make sure that everyone can hear me. So if you all can put a 1 in the chat, if you can hear me, please just put a 1 in the chat box. And that way I'll know that everyone can hear me. All right. Okay, almost set. We have a great webinar for you. A lot of information. Yeah, everything in a minute. So while I'm getting the rest of my materials together, all right, everyone, please tell me where you're from. Tell us today where you all are from. You could put your city and state in the chat box, or just put your state. That's fine in the chat. Okay, we got somebody from Chicago. Oh, a few people from Chicago, Illinois, Chi-Town in the house. All right. Okay, I see Texas. Nice. Virginia, Florida. Okay. Okay, the Sunshine State of California. We see you. Arizona. All right. Las Vegas. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for your participation. I do want to begin sharing my screen with everyone. All right. All right. Welcome. I am Dr. Griggs, president of NCNM University, and I welcome you again to Enter the NapraVerse webinar. And I want to take a moment just to share my story about how I entered into the field of naprapathy. My first medical discipline is pharmacy. I am a doctor of pharmacy before I got into the field of naprapathy. And I want to share my journey briefly. And what kind of motivated this webinar to begin with, because I remember being that person on the fence. So for those of you that are joining in because you're on the fence, this is definitely for you as well. Some of you already know you want to do this. You just wanted to get a little bit more information, and that's why you're joining in today. But I really would like to share my story, because here I am on the side of medicine. And again, this is a little bit over 20 years ago when I first entered into the field of pharmacy. When I first graduated, well, I guess what I should say, when I graduated, because it's been well over 20 years. When I entered into the field of pharmacy, yes, pre-pharmacy, a pharmacy student, pharmacy intern, graduate intern, etc., and then on to registered pharmacist. So I should just say that it's been 20 years plus. But that journey before that, it was maybe 6 to 7 years to complete it before I was able to become a registered pharmacist. So when I say over 20 years, I'm compiling all of that. And I do remember wanting to go into pre-med. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be more into patient care. Please keep in mind that clinical pharmacists now, yes, they are providers. We've made strides in the pharmacy industry. So my perspective, my story is that from 20 years ago, when we weren't quite there yet. Pharmacists are very much hands-on in patient care now than they were 20 years ago. So my motivation for wanting to go to medical school was to be directly involved in patient care. But one of the things I used to always pause on is the question I could ask myself: what more would you be learning Or what more would you be gaining if you went to medical school? And in my opinion, the only thing that I would gain was the ability to prescribe. That's it. And I asked myself, is that enough for you? Does it matter to you to be able to prescribe? And it didn't. So I got on my Google search engine and I said, let me go the path that's less traveled. And again, from a perspective of over 20 years ago with natural medicine. So I did look into natural medicine, but I will also mention that my exposure to naprapathy came before this Google search that I'm speaking of now. There was a young lady that I met when I was in pre-pharmacy. She was pre-med, and I knew that she had transitioned on from pre-med to the Doctor of Naprapathy program sometime later. I was still skeptical about it, so I didn't go. So I said, let me look into natural medicine. Shows how much I knew about it, right? So when I typed it in, the search engine brought up the school, which is within 8 miles of where I live. So it was within proximity. It was the National College of Naturopathic Medicine. And I'm looking at it like, it's not spelled right. Something's not right. So I still went into the website and looked into it. I'm like, okay. It so happened I got back in touch with that lady. And now she's an intern in a program, getting ready to come out. She's telling me all about it, how wonderful it is, how she loved what she did. She was able to make her own hours. And it was certainly attractive to me as a Walgreens pharmacist because I was confined to either an 8 to 4, 12 to 8, 11 to 7, 2 to 10, 3 to 11 schedule. So I'm confined to that, maybe even does some overnights. So I was attracted to being my own boss and being able to help get people out of pain naturally. And in my role as a dispensing pharmacist, and I'm saying that to say because my role as a pharmacist has not ended. A lot of people like to tell my story, say that as if I left the industry of pharmacy, which I did not. I just got more into the academics with pharmacy and teaching pharmacy. So at least when I was a dispensing pharmacy in my role in Walgreens Pharmacy, I used to always see patients that sat in the chairs cringing in pain, waiting on us to fill a prescription. And I used to try to hurry up within reason to get them their medication, as I would see them legitimately in pain. I also had a heart for the pregnant patient population that came in pain, and it wasn't much that they could take because they're carrying a child. So my heart used to always go out to them. And then I said, okay, I'll just take one class. And I ended up choosing nutrition. And that was just from my own personal professional portfolio as a pharmacist. I wanted to get into MTM, medication therapy management. And I wanted to be able to have nutrition as something under my belt as a pharmacist, to be able to counsel patients and guiding them through their medication therapy, being able to provide them with nutritional options. And for those that needed the assistance of a pharmacist to walk them off medications, of course, working with their prescriber. And then, of course, leading them down that road for that, but to be able to offer nutritional options to assist them with that, with the foods and of course with the supplements. So that was the reason that I went there. And then I developed a frozen shoulder. This is a condition where the shoulder locks up and you're not able to move it around. I could even raise my arm 90 degrees, maybe even 60 degrees without excruciating pain. But when I was at work, I would have my pharmacy technicians handing me things. And anyone who's ever had pain, chronic pain, knows how unpleasant it is. Then, of course, anyone out there ever had pain? Yeah, I mean, you know what? Put a P in the chat if you ever had any kind of pain. You could even put what kind of pain that is. If it was a headache, it was back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, whatever it is or was, whatever that injury is or was. Put it in the chat if you want to share that, or just put a P in the chat, because pain is something that's relatable between all of us. And even, put in there what you did for your pain relief, your pain management? You know, did you take any medication for it? If you did meds, put MED for meds for chat. You know, just share it. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I still take a leave when I need to. Anyone's had surgery, put an S in the chat if you've undergone surgery. I have. I've done so through childbirth, but not, you know, for an injury. But there are those of you that have, and many people that have. On the subject of pain and pain management, there are so many different avenues to travel with that. And although naturopathic medicine is an alternative or acceptable avenue to go for pain relief, but a lot of people don't know about it. Anyone use a naprapath for pain relief? Put it in the chat if you have utilized a naprapath for your pain relief or pain management. Just put it in the chat. You have had a naprapathic treatment. So what about a physical therapist? Any physical therapy in this webinar today? Put PT in the chat if you have received physical therapy. What about a chiropractor? Any chiropractic adjustments experienced out there? Put a C in the chat. What about massage therapy? Therapeutic massage. You've gone to a massage therapist, any kind of massage areas. If you've done that in the past, put an M in the chat for that. See, what we're doing here is we're trying to put it out there, the different practitioners that are out there. Oh, and one that's last to mention, but certainly not least, acupuncturist. Any acupuncture, anybody? Put an A in the chat if you've experienced that or utilize acupuncture for pain relief or pain management. And now we're able to go back and look at all of the different kinds of pain that we as a society have had to endure, to experience. We get to look around to your virtual person to your left or right, as far or up or down in the chat box. But you get to see this with the different responses from people that from all over, you know, now that we kind of know where some of the people are from, but now you get to see how we're connected. You get to see this and the experience of pain. It's real. So I just wanted to take them up because I know I'm not the only one up in here. I know you could relate. So you take this webinar and say, listen, now we are related. This is something that we can all relate to. Yes. But back to my story about how unpleasant and uncomfortable it was to go to work in pain. But I got bills. I got to eat. So I have to go to work. The only options for me in this condition, and a lot of cases in most conditions, the only options were surgery and medication. And I knew then, like, oh, you're not cutting my body. No, we're not doing that. And I was not going to take a painkiller. Not taking any opioids, no narcotics. I have the narcotics key in my lab coat pocket as a pharmacist. And they scared us to death, at least me, about those pharmacists that had injuries or something and they ended up addicted to those pain meds. I mean, they lost their entire livelihoods. And I just said, no, I'm just going to be in pain. But by chance, I was also enrolled at the college, the National College of Naprapathy Medicine, as we once know. And I was taking a nutrition course there. The doctor who was treating me was also, the instructor, the doctor who was the instructor, he was a nutrition instructor, but he was also a technique instructor. And so he saw me writing, cringing, and he said, Shantae, are you in pain? And I was like, yeah, my shoulder, you know. And I didn't even know the place that I was sitting in. But he was really able to educate me about my conditions, and not just myself, but the class, because some of the classmates that were in the class, they were also in his technique class. So this became a teachable moment for me and everyone else there. So he, you know, did some things while I was a guinea pig at a class. He did some things on the table. And when I got up, I was like, oh my God, I felt something different. I turned to him and said, I will pay you cash. If you could fix this, I will pay you cash. Where is your office? I scheduled an appointment, went and got my treatment. I have not had a problem since. And I remember this distinctly because just a few days later, a good friend of mine had his birthday party. His birthday is in November. And I had to go to that birthday party. And I remember the doctor put kinesio tape on that shoulder. So the outfit that I wore, it exposed my back and shoulders. So it was halter something like. But the kinesio tape was still there. And all night long, everyone kept saying, what is that on your shoulder? So just to that point, just to illustrate, I was out of pain just within a few days, because that party was just a few days after my treatment. And I'm up in the club, shoulders fine. So that's my story. You think that would have been a thing that made me commit to the program? Not quite yet. I had even been in another class one time and I had a headache. And there was another instructor, another naprapath. She's historically had been the technique instructor. And she said, what's the matter? And I said, oh, I got a headache. She got up, came to my seat, did something with my neck. And then within 5 minutes, I can feel it reducing, the pounding in my head, reducing. And I'm like, what? So for me as a pharmacist, you have to prove to me that it works. It has to work. I started to really believe in this medicine. And the thing that let me know, that gave me confirmation that I was in the right place, I was working one weekend at a store. I used to be staff out at this Walgreens that was out south in Chicago. And I was working one Sunday. A medical doctor called in and he's like, oh, I need to speak to the pharmacist. And I'm like, okay, speaking. And he's like, I have a patient. She is suffering from insomnia and he wanted help. He needed help to titrate and change her dose for in the medication classes that, we call benzodiazepines. And he had been doing everything by the book, moving everything the way she's supposed to. I looked at her profile. She has a pharmacist dream, not many things in her profile, because I just knew she had a long laundry list of medications that could have been causing that insomnia. But I just said, listen to the medical doctor, you have been doing everything correctly, moving her through the agents so that she doesn't develop any type of psychological or physical dependence on this Schedule 3. Okay, how you feel about a natural supplement, something different that we can introduce to her in a very low dose in the first 30 days and see how we go. We'll run it through as a prescription, even though it's over the counter. It's not covered by insurance, but if I run it through and cash it out, it would show up in her profile. And that's something that she is taking or have taken in the past. And it will let other pharmacists know that who may evaluate her profile with everything that she's on. And so the doctor said, okay, let's do it. I never really knew, but you know what? Fate would have it. I was working on a different Sunday, same location. Doctor calls back in. You know what? I spoke with a pharmacist last month and she recommended this over-the-counter supplement. And, I never said anything yet. And he's like, I just want to call in and refill the prescription. I want to call refills so that she can get it as much as she like. When I tell you, I had the biggest smile, but I never interrupted the medical doctor to say, you were talking to me. It was me. It was me. That was enough for me to know I was in the right place. So to someone who's on the fence, where I had other colleagues, I had a friend, her husband, they were both PharmD, but her husband was in his residency for anesthesiology. And she would talk to him about it and we would all be talking. And he was like, I know you signed up to take your MCAT. And I say, why don't you just go to become a real doctor? And I was like, ouch. They're real doctors. They're just different kind of doctors. So imagine back then going through that. For those of you on the fence, I understand how you feel because here I am with my colleagues and it's not a whole lot about it. Nobody really knows about it, but all I know is my experience with it. And I know how it has helped me. I know this. but it's hard to prove. So I really did have to take a leap of faith with this, and it was the best decision I could have made. When did I have that shoulder injury? 2010. Naprapathy has been a godsend to me, even in my childbearing years, because it helped me out when I was pregnant. I was pregnant during my internship. And so my classmates used to treat me and help me out and give me out of back pain. And I ended up doing my doctoral thesis on hyperlordosis and lower back pain in the pregnant population with the application of naturopathic medicine. And it was very challenging to do that thesis, trying to find research and supporting materials because of that lack of research out there about naturopathic medicine, at least in this country. So I had to pull the parts of naturopathic medicine that was synonymous to maybe physical therapy or chiropractic medicine or acupuncture, not their disciplines, but just certain things, aspects of those things that were very much like naprapathy. Researching or framing the research, finding the research to support what I knew, the theory that I had was really challenging. And it motivated me when I got up to in private practice to go into women's health, whereas classmates are going into sports medicine and all of that stuff. No, I wanted to do a focus on family planning, prenatal and postpartum care. That was my focus. That was my niche for naturopathic medicine. And in that moment, I ended up in another high-risk pregnancy, and I had to close down that practice and focus on getting to term. And I had my baby, and I ended up staying home. And it wasn't until he turned 3 that I entered back into the workforce professionally in this profession, serving on the school board. That was in 2019, in June of 2019, I was nominated to be the new president of NCNM, which is known as the National College of Naprapathic Medicine. So this is just to give you guys a little time frame of events of how I got here with naprapathy. As naprapaths for connective tissue specialists, you have the connective tissue throughout your entire body. And to know what connective tissues are: ligaments, the fascia network, we call that white meat, blood, and even lymph are connective tissues. And as connective tissue specialists, we connect people, pun intended. So with our patients and our naturopathic evaluations and assessments, if we find something, we may say, and oftentimes we do, you may need to go see an orthopedic surgeon, or you may need to go see a rheumatologist or an oncologist or a podiatrist. You get where I'm going with that? We often make referrals to other healthcare providers. And much like I was connected to so many different healthcare providers as a pharmacist, the same thing happened as a naturopath. So those are one of the things that I feel that was so similar and familiar in the medical disciplines that I have. That is connecting people and other healthcare providers. And that's why in the new branding, because 8 months into my administration, the world was hit by COVID-19. And the world shut down. I have other videos to tell everybody all about it. But after the pandemic, the decision was made to rebrand and reintroduce ourselves. We're a new old profession, naprapathy. We are new because people are really just starting to hear more about us because we've been around since the early 1900s. We're a new old profession. That's what I like to call us. All right. I think that was what I wanted to share, as the compilation of my story. For you all to know a little bit about me. And I'm just so excited about showing you guys everything that we have done in this administration, the team, what we have done for the new Doctor of Naprapathy program, and the entire Department of Naprapathic Sciences. Because this in the administration, and this was even before the pandemic, but even though the pandemic, it slowed a lot of our efforts, but it did not stop us. We are still here, ready and willing to fulfill our mission, and we're excited to have those of you that will be joining in on that mission soon enough. So without further ado, let's get into the NapraVerse for today's webinar. Let's get to it. All right, our first presenter up is our very own NCNMU's Associate Dean of Applied and Integrative Sciences. We have Dr. Gibson up with a brief presentation about the course loads and a different type of course loads for the Doctor of Naprapathy program. So we're gonna bring him on up first for you all, and then we'll be back.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Daniel Gibson. I am the Associate Dean of Integrated and Applied Sciences at NCNMU. And the purpose of this video is to go over course load in the two pathways for the DN degree, the Doctor of Naprapathic Medicine degree. We have two pathways students can take. We have a four-year pathway, which is going to be the standard pathway and is going to consist of 3 years in the classroom and 1 year in the clinic. Then we have a 3-year accelerated pathway where you spend 2 years in the classroom and 1 year in the clinic. The 4-year pathway is going to be less rigorous and is going to be spread over more time. The 3-year program is going to be much more rigorous and spread over less time. And I'm going to go through the details of each pathway in turn. So to start with the 4-year program, the 4-year program is going to be our default program. So students will default into the 4-year program, and they could choose to do the 3-year program if they would like to. The 4-year program is going to, both programs are going to be divided into 4 quarters per year. Each quarter is going to be 12 weeks. And so you take the same courses over those 12 weeks. And so each quarter is going to have different courses and therefore different loads. So the load of each quarter is going to be shown by the total quarter hours. So these hours are the number of hours that are spent in the classroom. So in the first quarter of the 4-year program, you have 4 courses that you're taking, and you are taking 2 5-credit courses. So anatomy 1 and lab, physiology 1 and lab are 5-credit courses each. And what that means is that you are spending 5 hours in the classroom. 3 hours are going to be lecture, and about 2 hours are going to be lab. Our lab courses are going to be more credit hours than our courses that do not have labs. And the number of credit hours are going to range between 5 and 3. 5 credits, 5 hours in class. 4 credits, 4 hours in class. 3 credits, 3 hours in class. And the number of classes that you take each quarter is either going to be 4 classes in most of the quarters or 5 classes in some of the quarters. So the second year of the 4-year program, you're taking 5 classes per quarter, but the credit hours is going to be right around 15, whereas in the first year, you're taking 4 classes per quarter, but the quarter hours could range between 16 and 18 because you're taking heavier courses at the same time. So to give you an idea of what your quarter would look like. So quarter one of year one, you are taking your anatomy 1 in lab, physiology 1 in lab, medical terminology, and naprapathic history and philosophy. So the total quarter hours are going to be 16. 4 classes, 2 of them have labs. So you are going to be spending about 16 hours in the classroom. And we could pair this to the 4th quarter of that same year, where you're still taking 4 classes, but the credit hours increases from 16 to 18. So in quarter 4 of year 1, you are taking the last course in anatomy, the last course in physiology, you're taking the first course in science of nutrition and diet, and then you are also taking a 3rd lab-based course, microbiology, immunology, public health, and lab. So the total number of credits that you're taking is 18 in this quarter. So you would expect to spend 18 hours in the classroom in quarter 4 of year 1. In year 2 of the 4-year program, you are jumping up in the number of courses. So you're taking about 5 courses per quarter, but the credit hours are going to be right around 15. So each of the courses are going to be about 3 credit hours. And what you'll notice is that these courses are not going to be composed of lecture and lab. Rather, they're going to be a little bit lighter, and you're going to be spending less time in the classroom per class. So in quarter 1, you are taking pathophysiology 1 of a 4-class sequence. You're taking histology, the 2nd quarter of science of nutrition and diet, kinesiology 1, and then the 1st semester of neuroscience dynamics. So you're going to be spending about 15 hours in the classroom. The last quarter of year 2, so quarter 4, you are again taking 5 courses, but the number of hours is going to be 17. So very similar to the first year, we tried to keep the number of credits pretty consistent from quarter to quarter. And so therefore, you can expect to devote the same amount of time to classes over all 3 years in the classroom, the 4th year being in the clinic. The 3-year program, on the other hand, is a little bit more rigorous because instead of you taking the courses over 3 years in the classroom, you are instead taking them over 2 years in the classroom. And then the final year, again, is clinic. So the 3-year accelerated program is designed for students that are maybe working on the weekends or don't have families or just want to get through the coursework quicker and are students that are going to be more devoted to their classwork over those 3 years. That is their number 1 priority. So the number of credits that you are taking per quarter is upwards of between 23 and 29. So to illustrate the load that you would be taking if you pursue the 3-year accelerated program, you will either have 6 courses, 7 courses, or 8 courses each quarter. And so quarter 1 of year 1, again, you're taking very similar courses as you do in the 4-year program, but we are adding 2 more courses to the 3 more courses to the roster. So we are still taking naprapathic history and philosophy. We're taking anatomy 1 in lab, physiology 1 in lab, but we're also adding biochemistry 1 in lab, as well as introduction to connective and soft tissue manipulation. And we are also going to be taking medical terminology. So the number of credits is going to be higher. So instead of it being that 16, you're taking 23. So you're taking 2 extra courses, that biochemistry course, which is 4 credit hours, so 4 hours in the classroom, as well as the introduction to connective and soft tissue manipulation, which is 3 credits. Still doable, still very, very doable, and within the load of a normal doctorate student in medicine. So as an osteopathic medically trained professional myself, I took around 20 to 25 credits per semester. We had semesters. We are doing it in quarters for you guys. So this is a very, very doable load, but you really have to be focused on the coursework. You really are not going to be able to work a full-time job if you're doing the 3-year accelerated program. I want to jump to a quarter that is a little bit heavier. So the heaviest quarter within the 3-year accelerated program is within quarter 2 of year 2. So again, all of your classroom courses are done within the first 2 years, kind of like is done in osteopathic medical school, allopathic medical school, which is MD, podiatry school. So this is a very, very common course load among medical schools. So in this quarter, we have 8 courses that you are taking. Now, still reasonable, but you're going to be spending about 29 hours within the classroom. So you're taking your second quarter of pathophysiology, you're taking your second quarter of naprapathic clinical evaluation, your second quarter of naprapathic technique, you're taking the second quarter of pharmacology for complementary medicine, you're taking your second part of neuroscience, neurology, and naprapathy, the final part of science of nutrition and diet, and you're taking your first quarter of accessory technique and adjunctive therapies. So the courses are not all, none of them are 5 credits. All of them are either 3 or 4 credits, but you're taking more courses to complete the requirements for the degree. And then we lessen your course load at the end, where the last quarter of year 3, you have only 18 credits. So, you know, this is really a rigorous curriculum, but it is a doable curriculum. So we get through all of your requirements within those 2 years. The 3rd year, you're in clinic. And by the 4th year, after you start, you're out in practice, which is pretty amazing and is a great pathway for somebody who wants to get into the workforce quickly. And whereas the 4-year program is designed for students that want to take their time and maybe are working at the same time or have a family. If you have any questions about any of the courses, if you have any questions about either path, please reach out to anyone at the college. My email, if you'd like to reach out to me, is Dr. Dr. and then my last name, Gibson, Gibson, at NCNMU.edu. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have about either pathway, if the 3-year is better for you or if the 4-year is better for you. And I appreciate you guys listening, and I look forward to seeing you guys in class in the future.
Welcome back, everyone. So what did you all think of Dr. Gibson's portion of the webinar? Please leave any type of comments, questions, or suggestions that you have in the chat. We welcome feedback, and you'll find that I'm going to pop in from time to time just to get feedback, because we want to use all of this information just to make for better webinars in the future. So we're going to get started with my segment, and then after my segment, you will meet Dr. Mesha, the Dean of Academics, who do his presentation on financial aid opportunities and accreditation efforts. So that's coming in a later part of that, but we're going to start now with my portion of the presentation. So I'm going to go on and share my screen. Right. Welcome to the NapraVerse. Okay, and I definitely hope. So I'm going to, oh, okay. So I am going to turn off my video at this time because I do not want to reduce the functionality here at all with all of the different things that we're doing. All right, just testing the mic to make sure everyone can hear me. You can't see me, but you should be able to hear me. This is just a reminder to everybody. We have our virtual open house. This is a daily broadcast on our DTV channel. So that's NCNM DTV. Hashtag powered by Step North. You can find us at ncnmudtv.com as it is on the screen. And I wanted to be able to mention the other social media platforms that we have a presence on. So make sure that you go there, like and follow us at the following platforms that are on the screen. The school's website is over on our right-hand side, ncnmu.edu. And if you go there, you will find our daily and weekly schedule for the DTV channel posted on the website that gives you the upcoming programs and events that are hosted by the university. So I wanted to mention that there. So definitely, if you're in the webinar and you're here, you signed up for the free webinar and you're like, wait a minute, what is naprapathy? Well, we have that covered for you. So we want you to stay in the webinar, but we just want you to remember to go to our DTV channel, and we have it scheduled 4 times a day. So no matter where you are in the world, there is a broadcast that's going to be at an appropriate time for you. And what are we going over in this virtual open house? We're going over the academic programs. We have what is naprapathy. That's also titled in a separate segment, which you'll see on our schedule. We have that titled as Enter the NapraVerse. So wherever on our TV schedule you see Enter the NapraVerse, that is a segment all about naprapathy. This webinar is really piggybacking off of the Enter the NapraVerse presentation, and we had people from that presentation sign up here. So some of you are here by way of that presentation, others maybe you just stumbled across it, and we're still glad that you did. Just remember to go like and follow us on our social media platforms, and make sure that you download the Step North Go mobile app and add NCNMU DTV as a favorite. So that's what we want you all to remember to do. We have a segment that we are hearing from the alumni. These are the licensed naprapaths in the field that's going to share with you their experiences as naturopathic doctors. That's a great segment inside of the virtual open house, but it's also a separate segment as well for the alumni interviews. I believe that's what it's called. Inside of the virtual open house, we talk about the application process, how to apply to us no matter where you are in the world. We tell you how and show you how to apply to NCNM University. We go over in another segment the financial aid and scholarship opportunities with our institution. We go over accreditation efforts. We, NCNM University, formerly known as the National College of Naturopathic Medicine, but still legally known as the Chicago National College of Naprapathy. We are a direct descendant of the original College of Naprapathy by our founder, Oakley Smith. And that original college was created in Chicago, Illinois, with an establishment date of September 30th, 1908. Now, of course, the college was in existence prior to 1908, but you will find documented in incorporation documents with the state of Illinois of 1908. So that's a very significant year of establishment, but not of discovery of naturopathic medicine. And he talks about that in the autobiography. We talk about that on National Naprapath Day, which is November 16th. You can learn all about that in naturopathic history. We have our Meet the Faculty segment, where you get to meet some of the faculty in the naturopathic sciences, the allied healthcare sciences, and the applied and integrative sciences. We also have a segment that I think that is very necessary, Life After NCNM University. So really check it out to understand your job placement and career opportunities in the field as we are rebranding this. I want to also show everyone the Naprapathy hashtags. Wherever you see this, this is connected to our advertising. And we've also encouraged our licensed naprapaths to also use the hashtags in any of their social media posting, just to show people and their highlights about how they feel about the profession, their practices, and just a way to connect everyone to Naprapathy. So here are our hashtags. You'll definitely see them around. All right, let's get into it. Naprapathy. We'll start with the pronunciation of Naprapathy. I can't tell you how many times people, they look at the word, and I get why they pronounce it this way. They say Naprapathy. And it's always funny to hear every time. And I mean, it took me a few years when I first got introduced to the field to really be able to pronounce it. So yes, it is 4 syllables. Naprapathy. We'll start with the pre-naprapathy program, something that came into effect in 2019, just shortly after my administration began. And this program can take you up to a year to complete, just depending on how many courses you take and where you come in. But this is designed for it to be a pipeline for those of you straight out of high school, or those of you that have a high school diploma or GED. You're able to begin in the pre-naprapathy sciences. And what does that mean? That means that you're taking your science courses that are needed in the admission requirements of the Doctor of Naprapathy program. You're taking it here with us at the institution. That's going to just help support your application into the Doctor of Naprapathy program. So ideally, you are concurrently enrolled in another college or university to take your humanities, English, and the other parts of your requirements to the Doctor of Naprapathy program. So you are concurrently enrolled somewhere else with us for the prerequisites, the courses that are needed to apply or make you more eligible for the Doctor of Naprapathy program. Acceptance and coming into the institution under the pre-naprapathy program is not an automatic pass to the Doctor of Naprapathy program. That's just helping to support those who may feel inadequate or they not as confident in sciences, because there are heavy sciences that are needed to get into these medical fields. And we recognize that. We know that. I know that because I had to travel this journey twice. Well, I didn't have to. I had to once. I chose to the second time. And so I understand how intimidating it can be for some people who don't aspire to do it. But I'm here to say that it's possible and that you can do it. And we're here to help you. Okay, the next program, the certification program that is part of the NapraVerse, is Naprapathic Assistant. Naprapathic Assistant, and I mentioned it before, it was done before, but now this is under the banner of NCNMU. And this is a 36-week program. And our quarters go 12 weeks at a time. So yes, you'll be doing 3 quarters of this program. And I just wanted to just show what some of the classes are. You don't have to screenshot or write any of this down because this is all available on the website, which you do see on the screen there. So it gives you an idea of the courses that are given or needed and required for Naprapathic Assistant. And really, what is that for? You know, a lot of people may not feel that they have the time commitment or they're able to go into the Doctor of Naprapathy program right away. This gives everyone the ability to be a part of our industry because they love what we're about. And then maybe later they go and become a doctor of naprapathy. But some are just going to be amazing assistants to the doctors, and we cannot wait to fill the workforce with our naturopathic assistants, because wherever we go as naturopathic doctors, so will you. So we look forward to those applications into the pre-naprapathy and naturopathic assistant. It is a great day to be a naprapath. Let's go into the Doctor of Naprapathy program. This is going to be a little bit longer part of the presentation because there are 2 tracks that you can take. You can take the 4-year track or the 3-year accelerated. The 4-year program is the original program. So it is paced out for a person to be full-time. You're able to still work, have families, not to say that you can't with the accelerated version. We're just saying that that was designed and paced out for a person to have a pretty steady experience that isn't as vigorous, even though it is still vigorous. It's just spread out a little more time for people. The DN program, and I would say that this applies to pre-naprapathy and naturopathic assistant, with our integrative learning models, because these courses are available online and on site. Pre-naprapathy, you will be able to complete completely online. Naturopathic assistant and the Doctor of Naprapathy program integrated in the sense that you do have to come on site because of the hands-on training. But that is our integrated learning model, hybrid learning model, models that we have for these courses. For that 4-year program, you'll have your 3 years of coursework, 1 year of the clinical internship. That internship is going to require a minimum of 350 treatments, and we call that patient points. So you have to treat at least that many times to be considered complete, and 1,000 hours of experience. We do have a license in the state of Illinois for a naturopathic doctor, and completing this program plus your last year in clinical internship will fulfill the requirements for you to be able to sit for the state licensing exam. This is a typical schedule. First year, Q1. You're coming in green. Maybe you've never had any type of, well, you had to have some undergrad. But the point is, these are the beginning courses. And that 15 to 16 to 17, that's going to be the typical average amount of hours in the 4-year track. We have an example of Q1, year 2 of the courses that you will take in the Doctor of Naprapathy program, 4-year program track. This is Q1, year 3. This is when we introduce that pharmacology that's coming into the naturopathic technique. Now the naturopathic sciences are really coming in here. And they may start also in the 2nd year too, the connective tissue courses that's leading you into the more naturopathic clinical evaluation courses, etc. So the differences between the Doctor of Naprapathy program from the administration I began in 2019 and the one that was traditionally known for all of these years is the improved applied and integrative sciences that are formerly known as the basic sciences. That includes the application of pharmacology. That's designed for DN students. This is a course that was not there before, and I remember mentioning to my predecessor that, hey, we need to have this. Even nursing students have a couple of semesters of pharmacology, something basic. We have a little bit more neuroscience and neurology because we find in practice that that nervous system component to what it is that we do is really important, and there wasn't enough of it from it before. We have more case study based learning so that students are getting real life scenarios to problem solve through and to guide them and help them problem solve through. The nutritional learning is more integrated. So it's not just the basic, we learn about carbohydrates, fatty acids, and protein. No. This is highly specialized. So just to give you an example of the integrative learning model and how these classes build on top of each other, how the physiology and the biochemistry is helping to build on the science of nutrition and diet, the pharmacology courses, all of them coming together, building on the drug, herb, and nutrient relationships. Now, I mentioned the young lady that introduced me to the field. I remember her calling me at work one day, and she was assessing a patient, and they brought in this bag of medication, and she didn't know what it was. So she called me, and I was able to talk with her about what it was and things like that. And we were able to both talk to the patient together. But not everyone had a friend that was a pharmacist that they could call. That wasn't accessible for everybody. And that is why the addition of pharmacology in the program for those information purposes, not to be able to prescribe it, but to understand what's going on. And it just makes for better naturopathic doctors that you have that type of knowledge base. With our anatomy and physiology, pathophysiology, kinesiology courses, building all the neurology, even building all into the naturopathic clinical evaluations and ultimately naturopathic therapeutics. So everything is building on each other. Very difficult to just jump in anywhere and start taking classes. You're going by a track. So it's pretty structured and rigid in that sense. And again, an example of showing how that connective tissue manipulation, just evolves, into the naturopathic techniques, because the two of them together, that's pretty the basis of what it is that we do and our approach to treating people. Now, you will learn other accessory techniques because it's just a good thing to know. I find that I don't use a lot of the other accessory techniques. What I find, if a naturopath is using a lot of the other accessory techniques, they really haven't honed in and mastered the connective tissue manipulation and naturopathic techniques. That's what I find. They start leaning to other things because they didn't quite grasp it, or even though they may have tested into the clinic and did well and got out, somewhere along the line, once they got out in practice, if you find them doing a lot of that, I always wonder, it always makes you go, you need to do a little bit more on your naturopathic techniques because naprapathy works. But for our students in this integrative learning model, you're going to have that naprapathy and connective tissue manipulation incorporated with some accessory techniques that will be learned so that you have options. And then also just so that you have the knowledge base in case there's something that you might need along the way. So we do give you the exposure to that, because you'll find that other physical medicine practitioners will be knowledgeable of those accessory techniques. And that's why we want to be able to expose our students to them as well. This is the first quarter of your fourth year, or the last year, because it could be the third year for you or a fourth year for you, depending on which program track you take. Every clinical practice has a course attached to it. So you're still taking a course. And again, we're basically walking you into becoming either that naturopathic doctor that's in practice for themselves, you're in business for yourself, or you're going to come into the NCNM U Health system, or through the strategic partnerships that we have with other hospitals that will be hiring licensed naturopaths. Moving on to the 3-year accelerated track. This is just an example of quarter one, year one, and you can see how the load is a little bit heavier than that 4-year track. Completely doable, but you do see that now the quarter hours are in the 20s, above 20. I don't think that there's anything below 22 in the accelerated track for the Doctor of Naprapathy program. And even with this load, it's still a nice pace of things. And having that 4-year track is great too, because I think back to when I was in pharmacy school. I was in pharmacy school for 4 years. That first year was review, that last year was clinicals. So I had to learn everything there was to learn about being a pharmacist in 2 years' time. And we didn't have quarters, we had semesters. So 16 weeks and then another 16 weeks. I didn't have the ability to go through the way that this program track allows people to go throughout the year and at their own pace. So I say all of that to say that it is doable. There are plenty of medical, DO, pharmacy, physical therapy, nursing students that go through the doctorate level tracks, and they have a lot that they have to take. So if they're out there doing it, it's doable, and you all can do it here too. Now, I did mention before in a former slide about the naprapathic therapeutics and how everything is leading into that. What is the naprapathic therapeutics, right? So it's the connective tissue manipulation and naprapathic techniques, okay? We're clear. Connective tissue manipulation is not soft tissue manipulation. We need to be distinct in that. We're connective tissue specialists. We may learn about soft tissue, and I noticed you saw that in one of those earlier intro courses. You learn a little bit of it in case you need it, but the focus is always on the connective tissues. Then with naprapathic clinical evaluation, that's how your approach, when you make that evaluation and assessment, your approach to your technique, how that will go. And because with our license, nutritional counsel is part of our scope of practice under our license. So that's where that functional medicine and the nutritional intervention come through. I know that functional medicine was a term that got really popular, so I wanted to mention it there so that people can relate it to what we're saying here as far as the amount of nutrition that you will learn in this program, because it's in it's almost in every quarter, every year. So it's very heavy on nutrition. And even though we are a physical medicine first and foremost, that natural medicine, nutritional component is very rich in the program. We talked about the track where you're going into business for yourself. In your 4th year, before you're let out, of course, you're going to learn about that. Credentialing, practice management, we will prepare you for all of it. And again, everyone doesn't want to go into business for themselves. NCNM Health System and NCNM Hospital System is on the way. Want to share with you all our vision. We have a vision of expansion throughout the United States, and there will be more little places there. This is just a model that was made about a year or two ago, so I'm sure it's updated and that more places are going to be added to this list that it has been. But just to give an idea that you can be in other places and take on us because we have that online studies. Now, definitely make sure that you're on our emailing list, that you're in touch with us, that you're connected with the university to know which one of these locations are going to be the next, what happens next. They're all in the plans. It's just about which one's rolling out beyond Chicago that we want to be flexible. We want to stay liquid for. I don't want to say, well, we really want to go to Florida or we really want to go to Texas. Well, we're open to however it's going to play out. We just know that it's a part of the plan. So definitely be looking for NCNMU, not just spreading throughout the United States, but abroad. Want to remind everybody about our virtual open house. It's a daily broadcast. Again, it's given 4 times out of the day. It runs about up to 2 hours and have different segments, but it's a great way to get the information that you need. And you can also download the Step North Go app, mobile app, and save us. Save us as a favorite, which is NCNM University. NCNMU DTV. Save us as a favorite. One last time, we have an itinerary and one last reminder that we have a daily and weekly schedule on our main website, ncnmu.edu. Homepage shows the schedule so that you can see what time these events and programs come on. You know what time that they're going to be broadcasted. And you can go to our DTV channel, ncnmudtv.com, to view those programs. Again, I know how many of you feel. We want to know as much as we can. And I'll tell you another story. Students, and there have been people where they will send in their transcripts. They're sending it everything before they even apply. They're sending it everything because they're trying to figure it all out beforehand. And I am here to tell you that it is a walk of faith. It is a leap of faith. I did not know. And I got into the industry in 2010, 14 years ago. There's been way more that has happened for this industry now than 14 years ago. This was a leap of faith for me, a walk of faith, to just believe that everything is going to be okay, but you do have to get started. You got to get started. Go on and complete your application today. Join us in the NapraVerse. Join us in the allied healthcare that is inspired by naturopathic medicine. I want to thank you all for joining us in this webinar. I hope the information helped fill in a few blanks. I really wanted to make this because I remember being on the fence, and I remember the people who were in my ear that didn't know anything about this. And I'm so glad that I went with my gut. I'm so glad I took that leap of faith, because this has been a wonderful journey. I'm so grateful for naturopathic medicine and what it's been able to do for me in my life personally, not just professionally, but personally. And of course, certainly the reward to helping people. And my gift to the legacy of naturopathic medicine is to come in every day, which I love to do, and furthering the field, making sure that it's innovative, making sure the education keeps excelling, being able to provide access to the education, and creating the future leaders of this profession. Thank you all so much. My information is on the screen. You can reach out to me, Dr. Griggs, at ncnmu.edu. I will say to you that because so many reach out to me oftentimes, and I try to be fair and respond to everyone, give them the same level of attention, which at times can feel like I am not responding to you at all. But I want you to know that I eventually get back to everyone. And I always encourage everyone to learn the other members of the team, because maybe someone else is a little less busy than your president. But I do want to hear from you. I can't wait to see your applications come in. I can't wait for you to join us. Thank you again for joining us today. And be sure to go to our DTV channel to watch the NapraVerse.
The year was 1908. 1908 proved to be one of historical moment for two of the first followers of Daniel David Palmer. Through circumstance and perhaps inevitable progression of new healing concepts, Oakley Smith, who graduated in 1899, and John F. A. Howard, who was in the class of 1906, would find themselves in Chicago, each heading new schools. Smith, a one-time Iowa medical student who had investigated Andrew Still's osteopathy in Kirksville, Missouri, before going to Davenport, Iowa, was to take another path. In the strict sense, it was not descent but schism. For Smith, who would in time reject the Palmer concept of vertebral subluxation, it was to be a total departure as to the doctrine of disease, and he was to announce his own concept, which was the connective tissue doctrine. So, what is naprapathy exactly? Naprapathy is a type of manual therapy that treats pain and dysfunction in the neuromusculoskeletal system. Living in the modern world, it's safe to assume that you've experienced this dysfunction in one way or another. Stress, poor sleep habits, bad posture, improper biomechanics, and ergonomically incorrect positions at work and at play can lead to a wide range of aches and pains, many of which trace their origins to the connective tissue that holds our human bodies together. Connective tissue is found throughout the body. It includes tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and fascia, which runs in between and through layers of muscle and covers bony structures, cartilage, and discs. When connective tissues are constricted, it diminishes the nerve, lymph, and blood flow drainage away from all muscles, organs, and glands throughout the body. Resulting stress can lead to aches, pains, inflammation, and decreased range of motion. Standard diagnostic tests tend to look for broken bones, torn ligaments, or tendons. X-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, myelograms, and electromyography do not show fascial restrictions. So, if there's nothing broken, sprained, or torn, many people are left suffering with undiagnosable pain. For many, the solution may lie in the fascia, and this is where naprapathic intervention can play a vital role. What do naprapaths do? Naprapathic practitioners combine gentle, hands-on connective tissue manipulation to help restore myofascial freedom with other therapeutic modalities and nutritional counseling, a whole health approach to assist the body in achieving optimal health. Naprapaths are connective tissue specialists, but they are also holistic healers. They use different techniques depending on the problem and the patient, to relieve pain and return the body to normal function. Naprapaths look at the body as a whole. Neuromusculoskeletal tension goes hand in hand with stress, and especially today, we're finding a lot of people are really suffering from pandemic anxiety and also pain from working in less than ideal ergonomic conditions. Interest in naprapathy has experienced an increase as awareness of the downsides of prescription drugs and a desire to find holistic alternatives has also increased. Naprapathy is a whole health practice as awareness and interest increases in this type of solution as an alternative to traditional medication. Students are taught the Oakley Smith naprapathic method of manipulation and the treatment of connective tissue disorders, integrating the basic sciences with the practical application of specialized principles established by the founding father, Dr. Oakley Smith. With a commitment to improving the health of the human person, graduates are qualified to join the allied health community as licensed doctors of naprapathic medicine. The college also offers postgraduate instruction and continuing education programs to expand professional competencies for licensed naprapaths in the areas of practice management, connective tissue manipulation, therapeutic and rehabilitative exercise, postural counseling, nutritional counseling, use of modalities such as heat, cold, light, water, radiant energy, electricity, sound and air and assistive devices for the purpose of preventing, correcting or alleviating physical disabilities. A philosophy of naprapathic education. Naprapathic medicine is primarily a system of therapeutic manipulation. Naprapaths contend that many functional disorders of the human body result from distortions in the interrelated structural, biochemical, and emotional balance of the normally self-regulating body. The early years of research and clinical application developed primarily the structural phase of therapeutics. Research determined that abnormal contracture of the ligaments and muscles connected to the spinal column affected spinal nerves and consequently their target connective tissues such as organs, glands, and blood vessels, altering their normal function. Application of specific techniques to correct these connective tissue abnormalities were studied and developed, and a charting system unique to naprapathic medicine was instituted in order to record specific findings as well as the therapeutic responses appropriate to each type of connective tissue syndrome. Specific, reliable naprapathic findings continue to guide the doctor of naprapathic medicine to consistently normalize neurological function through precise manipulative technique. Around the mid-20th century, naprapathic medicine also incorporated the biochemical phase of health. The chemistry of the human body is optimally in continuous process, adjusting to changes in the environment, diet, exercise, posture, redundant motion and individual stresses. A wide spectrum of biochemical components, including nutritional elements, hormones, enzymes, metabolic byproducts and end products are studied as integral factors toward the balance of the human body. Doctors of naprapathic medicine remain person-oriented, taking time to explain procedures and conditions to the patient, and to enlist the patient's participation in establishing daily healthy habits of exercise, correct posture, sound body. If you are interested in exploring an exciting career in naprapathy or any of our other course offerings, please complete the form or call us immediately.